Yeah, they've been handing them out there. The guys been handing out everything. They just have handed all out.
Crazy to a lot of people.
Right, hey, no, man.
They just sometimes.
Hey, how you doing? Everything well?
Yeah, chill, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
See you too.
See, my first one, I fainted. I was
You're a mini daddy.
My wife was lucky the other day. She had to run about and everything had to keep the kids, so get the kids out. Are you ready? Give him your full attention. Is that fair, everybody? All right, with that being said, I want to introduce to everyone Bishop Kevin Johnson. Let's give him a hand, you guys. And for me, this is a that's right, come and sit right next to me. That's right. This is a monumental day because this is the first book signing I have ever done in my shop. I am extremely excited because, as you know, I'm also a writer. So when I get an opportunity to talk to someone who has put together prose, whether it be motivational, fiction, whatever, I am inspired and motivated that much more because I understand what it takes to put these together. So with that being said, if you would just in your own words, for a couple minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to the point where you wrote these books. We want to thank God for being here today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank God for this chance to share some things about the books, life, a bit about it. And Brother Abe for opening this door. Amen. Seniors Hudson. Coffee, we thank God for this place. My story is very simple. I was born in the Bahamas, 1972. Grew up in a family where my father was there, but he wasn't there. Grew up in a family where the men in my family, many of them were not as faithful to their wives they should have been. That cycle trickled through my family's bloodline, creating death cycles in family. So as I grew up seeing a father I did not know, who would not let me know the father in him I should. Well, that played on my psyche in the Bahamas growing up because then it gave me no identity. I had a face with no image, had no identity of my own. The father who couldn't give me one because he had no identity of his own. But that he had caused me to be born. And for years we grew up in poverty in the Bahamas. I grew up in one of the most drug-infested, sexually transmitted disease infected areas in our country. Poverty-stricken to the core. I remember some days where if we were able to eat rice with butter, that was a blessing. And I remember days where my mother went without lunch to make sure that we had lunch to go to school with. She literally went for a week without having lunch. She would drink tea for the entire week. She was a school teacher to make sure we survived. Well, one year in high school, I think it was grade 10, when I still was unsure of who I would become, what I would be. My grades were flunking and failing. I was just skipping classes and things were not going well. I was in an English language class and my English teacher said, all right, Kevin, now, I want you all to go outside and look at nature. And I want you to look at something in nature and write about it. So I said, oh, this is crazy. Why does she want us to do this? I'm not prepared for this. This is spontaneous. What do we do? Oh, please. So the whole class went out. Some 30 of us went out into the back of the school. We saw trees of different kinds and so forth. So at this point, I have no destiny. I have no understanding of who I am or what I should become. I have no niche. I have no purpose, plan. I knew nothing. Though I grew up in church and I should have, but I didn't. And I looked up and something caught my eye outside, and I saw this tree. And immediately I heard these thoughts. Look at this tree. What do you think about this tree? I said, wait, this tree has no leaves. Another question came to mind. Why does this tree have no leaves? I said, wow, that's a good question. I said, yeah, why does this tree have no leaves? Then I thought about the type of season we were in. We were in fall. The leaves were losing their shape and luster, and they were falling off. And the statement was this: write a poem about this. So I had my book outside the pen. I wrote this: trees, oh trees, wherefore art thou leaves? I was like, this makes sense. So I started to build from there, and then it was like, it seems to me like you have lost your life. And I was like, is this me? I'm like, what is this? I said, okay, maybe this is a fluke. So we turned it into our English teacher. Out of all the poems written, she took mine, put it on the board above everyone else, and said, wait a minute, I've got to highlight this poem. And this was written from Kevin Johnson. I said, well, she's highlighting this? What was happening was, the gift was speaking in my life of what I would eventually become. And I was only in grade 10. Shortly after that, I graduated from high school and bumped around outside of God's will, outside of God's purpose, until one day in a church service, I broke out in tears, started to walk down, accepted Jesus as Lord, gave my life to Christ, and immediately after doing that, I would wake up in the morning and I would hear thoughts in my mind. I want you to write this. I want you to write this. What is this? He said, write this. I want you to define this. And I would write and I would define it. I would write and define it. Went to Bible college, God opened the door, and he would have me writing little booklets. He would say, I want you to write this, exercise this, and I would write little booklets of training for believers and training for those who do not yet believe in Christ and who need to know His love. And I would write them, and this makes sense. But I didn't know that He was forming something in me that I had not known, and that was the author within me. So I just kept writing until 1 year after I'd gotten married. Long finished Bible college, went back to the Bahamas, got married. And the first book, actually the first book I wrote is not even published yet. It's the last book on the list. Sometimes the first does become last. It's called Lions in Sheep's Clothing. And it was the practice book. So I wrote that and I said, this makes sense. Then these other books came and I turned over. So, you know, the will of God began to form and take shape.
So let me ask you this. Before we get into the books, I know in other countries, a lot of times people don't realize that what we know is poverty in the United States. In truth, my gosh, you are living on how do people say you're living on the high hog?
Yes.
Describe poverty in the Bahamas compared to the United States as you see it.
It is. It is so much different when you live in a third world nation. A third world nation that imports more than exports. And our country is smack dab in the middle of the Atlantic between two world powers. Europe on one side and America on the other side, yes? And what happens is we tend to import from the United States and from Europe. Whatever happens to the United States or Europe happens to our currency. So although our Bahamian dollar is just, I think, 0.1 cent off of the American dollar, we can actually trade dollar for dollar with the USA. What then happens to America happens to us 10 times worse. So the economic downturn that America suffered, think about this. What you thought was so horrible and horrific, in our country that is just about 350,000 people in total, spread over 700 islands and chains of islands. You're talking about poverty that now is 20%, 30% more than what's happening here. And so, growing up like that, whatever job you got, whether it was government, you still only got a certain pay. And minimum wage in our country is not minimum wage in America. Minimum wage in America is a miracle compared to minimum wage in our country.
So it's interesting.